Well, hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Gloved from Lockdown. Very lucky today, joined by a former teammate of mine, good friend of mine, and a man who's very hard to tie down considering he's about 15 foot tall. We've got Fraser Forster, played with him with England, worked with him for years, good friend of mine, gym buddy of mine. Had a great career, had an interesting career, started late, up north in Newcastle, going above, plenty of loans, similar sort of story to myself. Had a really sticky 2 years recently, not down to any other reason, in my opinion, other than the politics of football. But took his opportunity this year, said why not, got himself back to Celtic, star and performer in the Europa League, ready to lockdown, literally sat in a pub on my Christmas do in Ireland, watching him beat Rangers almost single-handedly. Back to his best, back to where I know he is, back to where everyone who's a Fraser Forster fan knows he should be. And we've got him in the building today via Zoom. So Fraser, nice one. Thanks for having you, and good to see you, mate.
No, cheers for having me. Been a while, so
Right,
exactly. It'll be a good catch up, and obviously, as you say, it's been a bit of a strange story at times, and highs and lows like everyone. But it'll be good to share a bit of insight.
Yeah, and also Fraser knows Jamie well. Similar sort of mentality to myself. Always wants to try and get the best out of himself. We've contacted and worked with Jamie, so you guys know each other. But I'll let Jamie introduce Fraser as he knows him.
Yeah, and Fraser, I can't believe we've got you tied down. Believe me. This is the way forward. Believe me, this is the way forward. Fraser would always be like, "What? You're going to come down to Southampton? It's a long way." I'm like, "Fraser, I'm there." Just, so. It's great because I'll never forget the first call that I had with your agent, and he said, Fraser Forster, he's coming back from injury. I think he's going to need some help. And the first thing I thought was Fraser, goalkeeper, Joe, goalkeeper, same England squad, competition. Joe, I've just had a call. Fraser Forster wants to work with me. Are you okay with that? No, he's rubbish. No, he said, absolutely. No problem at all. I think it'd be great for him. Great guy. He said, not a problem at all. And literally, I called you right back. I never forget phone calls where I am. And I called you right back. And I said, right, let's go. We'll meet next week in London. And do you remember that first meeting?
Yeah. That was good.
In the restaurant. I think we were supposed to only be about 40 minutes or something. We ended up being about 2.5 hours. Yeah. So,
it was just one of them. I think at the time, as you say, I was coming back from my injury, and obviously knowing Joe so well, obviously knew that he worked with you, and my agent obviously recommended you as well. And I don't know, I think over that spell of being injured, kind of realised how important psychology was really. And then it was just a case of, as Hart said, like just trying to get the best out of me. I thought, I've never really explored that avenue as much as, other people. And, I thought, if I can do that and get a couple of, even if I get 1% out of it, I'm 1% better footballer, better guy. So for me, it was just one of them where, obviously I wanted to kind of embrace that side of it. And obviously you came highly recommended. So, and then,
was there any reason why, at that time, we're talking about maybe 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. About 4 years ago. Is there any reason why you'd particularly left it so late? If you think about, we know there's a lot of young players going to watch this. We know there's going to be a lot of other, is there any particular why you didn't look at it?
I think it's a strange one. I think kind of in looking back, I think probably at the start of my career, it wasn't really around that much. It was, but within football clubs, obviously there was that. Not many people are openly coming out saying, I work with a sports psychologist. So I think at the very start, it was kind of still probably the end of that era. Mm-hmm. But then, I don't know, I think looking back on my career, obviously I was young, and then I went to Celtic. Things went well at Celtic in my first spell there. So I probably, like anyone, kind of fell into the trap a little bit of, things are good. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously I had that injury, and that was probably the first big low that I had.
Okay.
And then probably in that spell where, even though I met you after I'd probably just come back from it, I think I kind of realised in that spell how important it was.
Yeah.
So then I thought, oh, this is something I want to look into, and once I'm fit and even playing, obviously I want to try and improve and be better, and that was probably why at that stage I thought, oh, I'm going to explore this route.
You know, you're from the northeast. You started relatively late, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I played like Sunday league and football at school and stuff, and I ended up getting chucked in goal. So I played in goal anyway there. Had a couple of trials.
Goal.
Yeah, I think it started because I think I was playing under 12s or under 13s, and basically I was playing like up an age group, but then the under 13s keeper moved up because he was too old and we didn't have a keeper.
Were you massive then?
No, not really. I was like normal, and then I think when I got to kind of 15, 16, I kind of kicked on. But I was just like, it wasn't because I was big or anything. I don't know how it came about, but I ended up in goal and seemed to do all right. So, yeah, it was just one of them. And then I had a couple of trials at teams when I was, 15, 16. That didn't, nothing came of them. And then just got a call out of the blue one day from Newcastle. So this was when I was 16, and Newcastle needed a keeper to sit on the bench in the FA Youth Cup. And they were like, oh, do you want to come in for a few days and see how you go, basically? And then that was it, really. I've never...
So where's your head at? Where's your head at? What did you want to be at the time? You've got three brothers. You're all very intelligent. You're at a good school. You're at a public school, is it called?
Private school, yeah.
You're at private school, great education, settled. Whenever I've worked with you, and I talk about it a lot, Fraser, you want to shake me sometimes. Like I can call you or watch an amazing performance. I've trained you with England. You've made saves that no other human being I know has ever made before, and you just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like, what were you like as a kid? Did you want it? Did you see football as what you wanted to do, or were you just quite happy kind of testing the waters, or did you just whatever? It sounds like, do you know what I mean? That's because on this podcast or show, or whatever you want to call it, we're all about the mentality. We're all about where does it come from? Like, to be Fraser Forster in goal for Celtic and Southampton in England, like, where does that come from? Because you're just another guy, just another kid coming up. Where did it all come from?
It was a weird one. I think I'd had these trials at other clubs, and for me, like, I always wanted to play football and be a footballer. I just wanted to play football. Like, I wasn't aware of anything that came with football. Like, I just loved playing football. And I had these trials at other teams. I think I had about 4 or 5 trials at different clubs. And they kind of didn't come to anything. And it was kind of a bit of a, I mean, obviously it knocks your confidence or whatever anyway.
Yeah.
But then,
who were these trials with?
Rangers, Liverpool, Leicester, Hibs.
You like that Scottish north of the border, don't you?
Yeah, so I had them. Nothing came of them. And then, it was one of them.
Any of them clubs did you think, I want that? I really want that.
Yeah, I think Liverpool was the one. I went there for a week, and then got to the end of the week. They were like, look, we want you to stay another week. Stay the extra week. And then just nothing came of it. It was just one of them. There was we'll keep watching you, see how you go. But yeah, it was just one of them. I think that was a bit of a knock of confidence. But
so till 16, you were in Newcastle, and Newcastle hadn't spoken to you?
No, so Newcastle hadn't spoken to me at that point. And then I'd finished my GCSEs, was starting my AS levels.
How did you get on the GCSEs?
I got 1 A star, 3 A's, 6 B's.
Yeah,
Smart, okay.
yeah, exactly. That's it.
A star in French, can't remember a word of it. So that was good. So it was just one of them. And then, as I say, like this call came out of the blue. And weirdly, at the time, it was kind of perfect because it came out of the blue and I was like, right, I'll go in and see what it's about. Obviously, I really wanted to be a footballer and just get to play football every day. So I went in and then it ended up, had a few days training, like loved it, obviously. They were like, oh, I'll come back next week for a few days. So at this point, I'm like trying to balance school and football. And
you at college? You at college or are you at school?
I was still at school.
Year 11.
Yeah.
So
So I finished. Yeah. So I finished A levels. So it's like sixth form.
Yeah.
And then basically they were like, look, come in next week again. So I was like, oh, brilliant. So anyway, absolutely palmed school off. And I was like, and that's what it became. They were like, yeah, like, you know, we see that like you'll work hard and whatever. And I mean, that's probably rubbish. Do you know what I mean? I'd never had any goalkeeping training, nothing. I was just raw.
I remember Millie remembering you coming in.
Oh,
like,
I mean,
literally couldn't get over the transformation of meeting you then, and then years down the line meeting. Like he obviously, you know, he gave you the basic potential goalkeeper when it comes to that 16, 17-year-old training with the first team, and then he said he got to train with you in England, and was like, wow, what like evolution in the small time. What a goalkeeper you did to.
It was like. But it was one of them where it was like, I ended up just palming off school and I was like, right, I'm coming in every day. So I literally patched school.
Who's helping you with these decisions? Like, that's a big, like, 16, 17. Who's your network at the time?
Oh, literally just my mum and dad. I think they saw what a big opportunity it was for me. But they were obviously very conscious of how many people don't make it and stuff. And so I ended up kind of trying to balance both until I was the end of that season. So I would have been 17 at the end of that year.
Yep.
Then it was then when I started full time. So then they said, "Oh, we'll give you like a YTS, so a 2-year YT." So that was at 17, and then so then 1 day a week you get to do like education. So the other lads at football would do, you know, people would come in.
Get to do. I know. Literally every football says you have to do.
What you have to do. So on that 1 day a week where they would do, I don't know, sports science or sports studies or whatever, I would actually go back to private school.
Yeah.
And I did 1 A level that year. And then I actually stayed at school until I was like 19. So I did an extra year and did like one-to-one tuition and did a second A level. So I did like a year doing psychology and a year doing economics. Just because.
How was that looked at by the lads, by the team? You know, because it's knowing that environment at the time, like you literally are of an age where you just want to fit in. You don't want to bring any attention to yourself other than as a footballer, like, or being a lad on a night out. So that's when people find that out about you. That's being different. So that's took big balls to do in the first place.
Yeah, it was one of them where at the time I didn't really think too much about it. But looking back, I think. Obviously, I got called like the posh kid and whatever. Do you know what I mean? It was a completely different set of lads I was around to what I was used to. You know, like 4 days a week I was at, previously like I'd been at private school every day with obviously different kids. And then I was with like a different group of lads completely. So obviously, yeah, like I think I took a bit of banter and whatever. But it was fine really. Like we had a good group, some good lads. And I think the big thing I realised when you go into like the academy, obviously I came in so late. And I remember, I think the first day I went in, so I did the goalkeeping session, we had lunch, so it was a weight session. But you've obviously seen me in the gym and whatever. But I'm 17, never lifted a weight. And it's like, so the goalkeeping coach is in the gym with me. And he's like, so you ever done weights? I was like, no. So I'm like 6'5", probably about 85 kilos or something like that. And he's like, right, well, I'll just take you for some for some stuff separate from the group. So I'm like, oh, great. So he's like, right, well, we'll do 10 press-ups. Couldn't do one.
Really?
He's like, do the med ball twists. Did like 3. Like, I never lifted weights. No idea. So then you look around at these lads who've been in academies since they were 8, 9 years old, who've obviously followed this pathway for, 10 years, basically.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I'm so far behind. Like, but in a way it was good because I kind of looked at these people and I was like, right, well, I need to get in front of them. So then kind of every day I was doing extra, whether it was on the pitch, in the gym. So that was the kind of thing I'd look at these people where I think some it's hard because they've been in football so long that they haven't got it's entitlement might be the wrong word, but you would have seen them where they've probably been in football so long. And they're probably burnt out a little bit by the time they reach that age when you probably need to be peaking. So for me, I just went in and then I trained so hard, just smashed the gym, just absolutely every day did something extra on the pitch, in the gym. And that was the biggest thing for me. Just
Did you feel like you were having to play catch up?
Oh yeah, I felt so far behind. Like at times, I was just mainly like in the gym because obviously in the gym you can put a number on things. Like you look over at such and such and he's lifting, I don't know, 30 kgs on chest press and I'm doing 10s. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, well, that's not right. You know what I mean? So I felt like I was playing catch up, but equally I wasn't worried about it. I was just like, I just got my head down, worked hard. Goalkeeping coach at the time was brilliant.
Who believed in you at Newcastle? Who made you believe? Because
it's a strange one because I probably didn't believe in myself, but I can look back at individual coaches and stuff where without them and without them believing in me and what they could make me, they obviously played a huge part. So the goalkeeping coach at the time was Adam Sadler. Don't know if you came across him at Man City.
Adam Sandler?
Yeah. No, Sadler.
All right.
And then the outfield coach was Kenny Wharton. So just 2 people there, like who just believed in me. Like knew I was raw, but stuck with me. Do you know what I mean?
So that's what I remember when I was young. I remember thinking, like, I was put in situations and I was like, what the hell am I doing here? Like, I'm well out of my depth. But goalkeepers, like, people in the right situation were putting me there. And that was the only reason I believed, because they put me there. I didn't walk into a training session or walk into a situation or training with the first team and think, I've got this. I was always like, Jesus, someone's going to find me out any minute. and then next minute, it's normal, it's easy, it's where you should be.
It's funny you say that. So obviously I then signed like my YTS, and that
for those let me say this because there's a few people that will have no idea what YTS is.
My age,
a lot of people, yeah. So YTS was what's called Youth Training Scheme, and it's the apprentice equivalent of today. That was the apprentice way back in the day, yeah.
But it was one of them. So I'd like kind of, when I'd been balancing school and that first kind of transition where they'd given me the chance before I signed that YTS or scholarship, whatever. So I did that. And then the pre-season, when I was actually full-time, we signed Tim Krull as well. Yeah. So, and the club paid money for him and stuff as well. So the club bought him and then brought him in. Immediately.
First team keepers at this point?
So we were at the academy, like me and Tim, and then we had, obviously it was Shay, Steve Harper, Tony Craig, with the 3 up there. There was Ben Smith, son of Simon Smith, the keeper coach. So they were kind of the 3, 4 in front of me, but it was like Shay was number 1, Steve Harper number 2. So yeah, obviously they brought Tim in, so that was kind of quite hard. to begin with, because I was thinking, all right, brilliant. And then obviously you had the situation where I remember, like, you'd obviously have the academy games on the Saturday, and then at the time then you'd have lads who would play the Saturday games, and you'd have, say, maybe like 10 lads or whatever who weren't getting a game. So they arranged these games on a Tuesday, and the lads used to call it the Tuesday League, and it would be games against like random like men's teams around Newcastle. It's like random games, and you'd go into them and you'd just be like, you're obviously devastated you've not played on the Saturday, so your head's a bit gone, whatever. But you just grind it out. I think you've just got to get your head down and just kind of work, and that was the biggest thing for me, just working as hard as I could, and then paid off. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the big thing.
So who did you look at the time? Was Shay Given someone you thought, like, I've worked with Shay as well, was that someone did you see much interaction with? Let's be honest, a great club, like a great man and a great goalkeeper.
Oh, it was one of them where every now and again, when you're at the academy, you'd get a shout of, "Oh, we need a keeper at the first team." So the two training grounds are just next to each other, so you can literally just run up there. So every now and again, you'd get that shout. And then it wasn't probably until I got told, "Oh, yeah, we're going to give you a pro." And then when they said, "Oh, we're going to give you a pro contract," I moved to the first team. And then, obviously then you're training with Shay, Harps every day. But you see like these glimpses of like the days you got to go up were like brilliant and horrific at the same time. Because you go up and you're so far at your depth, as you say, and then you get a shot of, "Oh, go and join in this small sided game." And you're like, balls are coming about what feels 200 miles an hour because you're just so far off the pace. And then even just with the ball at your feet, trying to make a pass, like it's so much quicker, you can't see anything. But you'd be absolutely buzzing, but then you'd be absolutely like fuming with your performance. But it's just one of them where you're off the pace, you're out of depth, not used to it. So yeah, I mean, it was brilliant. But I remember like the days where I got my pro contract, moved to the first team, and honestly, it might sound a little bit sad, but this was the buzz I had. So obviously then I'm training like Shay and Harps, and I'd be so buzzing for training. And then like I'd get home in the evening, or like whatever time I'd get home, I'd be sat in the evening, I'd be like, can't wait to go to bed, because then it'll be time to go to training again. And like
how are you saying that's sad? Like it's
the best buzz ever. Like
anyone would feel like, what a feeling to be training. When you've never even thought about playing for the club, like you probably never even thought about playing for Newcastle. I'd imagine you're saying, we just taking whatever you could at the time. Like, I don't know I'm going to have a football career. I don't know I'm going to play first team football for anyone. I'm taking everything I can.
Yeah, like as you say, like I was a Newcastle fan, used to go to some of the games. Obviously, like idolise these players, and then kind of like day to day, you're then around them, and you're like, you're absolutely buzzing. And as you say, you're just watching them, watching everything they do. Like,
they let feeling someone lets onto you, yes, big man, or something like that.
Oh, and you know what, Shay and I mean Steve Harper is brilliant as well, because they're just great guys as well. So they'd help you so much. Like they weren't like over everything. They would be like, "Oh, do this, do that," and like they would. So it was basically you go to training and work with like 3 goalkeeping coaches in one session. Yeah, and it was so good. Like great guys, couldn't do enough for you. It was brilliant. And then, as you say, you mentioned him, like James Milner. Every day, Millie would be out doing something. Like after training, it would be like, "Oh, Fraser, grab you for some shooting," and so like every day you'd be getting half an hour of shooting with like Millie or whoever else wanted it. So like you were just getting worked so hard, but it was so good because that's how you improve.
Yeah.
And is that Fraser, that's where your early days of work ethic, because you were trying to catch up in some respects, but at this point now, have you really set your sights on what this could mean for you as a player? Who were you looking up to aside from Harper and Shay beyond Newcastle? Who were you looking at? Who was in the England team at the time?
Who would have been? couldn't even.
With Robinson,
Yeah, maybe Robinson.
Mo,
David James.
Foster, who obviously namesake.
Yeah.
Was he
It
not
was one
quite?
of them, though. It was one of them. I don't think I even looked at England. Like, I was just... Obviously, I watched all the games, loved it. But you know when you're just, like, being a Newcastle fan and then I just idolised, like, Shea.
Right. You're still a Newcastle fan then?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, what a club. Do you know what I mean? So...
Did you never? Have you never? I'm putting you on the spot here, but have you ever thought I'd love to play there?
Oh, it's one of them where even like last year I went back. Was it last year? I think I was on the bench for Southampton in like 1 or 2 games, and we had Newcastle away. And I remember I didn't play, obviously. And I went and I went out on a pitch at half time, just a little jog. And I'm just stood on the pitch. Like, I must have looked like a weirdo. But I'm just stood on the pitch, like, looking around the stadium. Just going, like, what a stadium. Like, you've obviously played there quite a few times. And it's an unbelievable stadium. Fans are unbelievable. And I'm just stood there and I was like, oh, what I'd give to play. And then got, like, a good reception as well. And I've never played for Newcastle. Like, I've never played in the first team there. I played reserves, never actually played in the first team. So I was thinking, oh, what I'd give to just play one game, like, for Newcastle in that stadium, because especially to Geordie, do you know what I mean? Like, I think similar to Liverpool, where any Scouse is idolised playing for Liverpool. I think the same with Newcastle. Like, if you're a Geordie playing for Newcastle, there's no better club. So I think that would be the one thing. So if I ever got that chance, obviously it would be brilliant. That's the one thing that I've never done that I wish I had done. So yeah, maybe one day. But it's just a special club, do you know what I mean? Being a Geordie and then it's a special club. So yeah.
I'm a Newcastle fan, but I need to play some football there. When did that come up into your mentality, into your thought process?
It was one of them. I obviously played reserve team games and stuff, and played them from quite a young age. I was kind of probably 18. I mean, it's probably not a young age in reality now, but played them. And there's only so much. Like, I'd played probably a couple of years of that. Got to kind of 19, almost 20.
Yeah.
I was like, need to get out and play men's football because it's completely different, isn't it? So obviously, people's kind of livelihood depends on it. It's very different. Like, you have to go and win. Like, people need that win bonus or whatever. So anyway, went on a 1-month loan to Stockport.
Yep. Down the road from me, Fraser, isn't it?
Yeah, your neck of the woods, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I went for a month. Played, I think, 4 or 5 games. Loved it. So different when you then go from being like a young lad to being the number one at a club. Like, your whole position changes and the way you're looked at changes.
But why? Even just, and by who was looking at you differently?
Hard one to say, but it's just like not within the pecking order, but just your position within a squad just changes. Do you know what I mean? Because I would have gone from being number 3, 4, where you're not playing and your week's not focused around your game at the weekend, to then being the number 1 where you're involved in all the team shape, you're like a fundamental part of the team, and then your whole week's training is based towards that game on the Saturday. So obviously it was important to get out and play, and still very young, very raw, but it went well. I think kept a few clean sheets. And
what was the reason for the loan? Emergency loan or?
No, so at the time you could go. No, it was emergency loan. So the keeper they had played for Wales. I want to say Wales under 21s.
Vaughan Williams, was it?
Yeah, so it's Vaughan Williams. So
brilliant. That's when I was at Shrewsbury, so I can't even follow training.
So yeah, it was one of them where, and obviously if you've only, I think the rules are you need so many people away for your game to be cancelled. So I think he was maybe their only international. So they were like, we need a keeper. You're going to come play a couple of games, maybe. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. So I went anyway. I ended up playing the whole month I was there. They wanted to extend it, and then at the time they were struggling a little bit financially. So then it worked out that it just didn't happen, and I went back to Newcastle. So went back there for the rest of the season. So I went back, did 6 months at Newcastle, being number 3. But then obviously got to the summer.
Did that change how you felt about football? Getting that?
Yeah, I think so. I think because once you play men's football and once you've been the number 1, obviously then you think of what I need to be doing this week in, week out.
That doing well feeling, some feeling, man. And
Yeah.
That's a drug.
I think that's the thing, like when you do well, and obviously for me at the time I thought it was a step up because even though it was League One football, it was a step up from playing reserve team. You know, definitely. So I felt I'd done well. And I was like, right, well, I'm ready to make that step. Do you know what I mean?
When someone wants you.
Yeah. And obviously, that's the thing. Obviously, when they want you and you know you've done well and you're like, oh, yeah, I can do this. Like, you kind of your belief grows because you're like, oh yeah, I can actually do this. Do you know what I mean? Like, so anyway, I went back to Newcastle, got to the summer, and they were like, oh, yeah, get you out on loan this year, and then ended up going to Bristol Rovers on a 1-month loan. So that was League One again. So I went there, I think played 4 or 5 games again, start of the season. This was the very start of the season. So that was the first month of the season, was like, oh, do a 1-month loan. That went well. And then it got to the end of the loan.
Yeah.
And this was a Thursday. So it was the loan finished on a Thursday. And they were like, yeah, we want to extend it. And I was like, yeah, great. And then out of nowhere, I got a call from Norwich, who were in League One as well. And they were like, we want you on loan till January. So I think at the time, it was a bit of a no-brainer, really. Obviously, Norwich had just dropped from the Championship into League One. Had a bit of a few tough games. Paul Lambert had just come in. And he... so, yeah, it was like, yeah, we want you on loan. And it was done. So I was like, okay, yeah. So obviously, being a young lad, you're trying to get your head around stuff because it's, you know, 1 minute you're thinking, oh, I'm going back to Bristol.
Yeah.
And then literally an hour later, you're going to play for Norwich. So I think I played Hartlepool away for Bristol Rovers, I think on the Tuesday. And I got the shout, and Norwich were playing Hartlepool away on the Saturday. So I got the shout of, just meet us at the team hotel on the Friday night.
Yeah.
So I've not met any of the lads, anything. I've turned up, I've walked in the door, I'm like, hi, Gaffer.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you're playing tomorrow. So I'm like,
so they've dropped the keeper for you as well. So you've got to go into that dynamic.
It was a weird situation there. So a manager had started the season, and then they obviously got off to a nightmare start. So in the summer, they'd signed an Australian keeper. I think they lost 5-1 in the first game.
Yeah.
Being a club of that who've just dropped into League One, they're thinking, well, we need to get out of this league.
Yeah.
But they've had a few bad results at the start of the season. So I think at the time I've joined, we're about 15th in the league, something like that. And they'd taken Ben Anick on loan as well, to find it as like a bit of a... So they brought him in. I think he had got concussion the week before.
Right.
So then they're like... So they've palmed off the Aussie keeper. And then Ben's got concussion. And I know Ben because he's from 2 minutes down the road from me.
So Ben's Sunderland. Is he at Sunderland?
So he was at Tottenham then. So he was on loan.
Growing up.
Tottenham.
Ben Anick was the main goalkeeper England set up. England under 21s. Played for Sunderland in the Premier League when he was 18. Ben Anick was a big name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they've said, look, they've obviously come in, take me on loan. Turned up. I've not met any of the lads, don't know any of the lads. So I've turned up Friday night in a hotel playing a game on the Saturday. So I think we won the game 1-0. And then, just stayed in the team. I think Ben ended up going back to Tottenham like a month later or something. I think his loan was cancelled, because obviously it didn't suit him either, because he was trying to do the exact same as me, get out, play games. So he went back. It was, and then obviously it was
quite a big victory at the time.
What was that?
Did that feel like quite a big, not a victory, because I don't mean it, like I like Ben. Ben's a really good guy, and he's a top. So I remember when I was in the 19s going into the 21s, Ben was one, and I just presumed that would be it. And then I went past him to be number one for 21s, and that was a huge moment for me. Was that a big moment? Like someone who I'd imagine you'd known about growing up. Ben Alec was a name, wasn't he?
Yeah. Like obviously,
that was a big statement. That.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it from his point of view, it's hard. Do you know what I mean? But from me, like I was buzzing because obviously he was kind of the main competition, and then his loan got. Yeah. So once he went, it kind of made things like we got on really well. Like Ben lived 5 minutes from me, so I'd known him when he was younger, and we got on great. But it was just one of them where it's hard when there's two people there who have kind of been brought in for the same thing, and then one's obviously frustrated. And so kind of when he went back, it kind of made things easier because you kind of fell into the pecking order. And but it was a big year, that. And obviously I was working with Paul Lambert, and Paul Lambert was just brilliant. Obviously, we went on to win League One, but he was just so good with me. Obviously knew I was a young keeper.
So and you're on loan to January, that obviously got extended.
Oh yeah, so then that got extended for the season. And then, but yeah, Paul Lambert was so good to me. He was just like.
In what way, Fraser? Was he good for you? Because I think this is an important point even for a coach listening to this. You even said this last week when we were talking about reviewing your Celtic season, and you said the manager was really good for me. What does that mean? What does it mean for managers listening? What does it mean for goalkeepers listening? What are they looking out for? What does clarify? He was really good for me.
I'll let you. I've got an opinion on it as well. But I'll let you speak.
You obviously Harty knows because he's played the position and he's been a young keeper playing games. So Paul Lambert, say we had a game on the Saturday. You've done your warm up. You've come in, and the keeper's always in normally, say 2 minutes before the rest of the lads or whatever. So I'm in the change room, and it's always just me and him. So I'm like, young man, I'm like, I don't really want to look at him. Like, I'm scared. But he's like, look, brought you in. You've been unbelievable. Fantastic. Don't care what you do. Don't care how you do it. Just keep the ball out the net. And that's all that matters. Like, you've been amazing. Think you're brilliant. And he would say that kind of every game. And whether it's true or not, or whether he believed it or not, who knows? Do you know what I mean? But just to hear that and be like, oh, it kind of gave you just a boost before you went out and played, and you were like, yeah, this guy likes me. Do you know what I mean? This guy thinks I'm good.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So it just gave you a lift. And as the season went on, my confidence grew anyway, because the team was doing well. We were winning games. Like, you're playing in a team that's winning, so confidence is going to be high.
A massive club for League One. Like, they're a proper club Norwich as well. So home games were important.
Big club.
Games are probably outnumbering the away fans. Like, that's a big feeling.
Oh yeah, like huge club. I mean, to be playing in front of what is it, 20-odd thousand, 25,000, 28,000 in League One when you're 21, like, it was amazing. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously within that, there's highs and lows and stuff. Like, you make mistakes, and you've got to deal with that. And when you're young, I mean, for me, when I was young, I used to punish myself so much if I made a mistake. Like, I'd be in my head, like, beating myself up for days afterwards.
Because you felt you had to, or you wanted to, or you thought it would make you better, or?
Looking back, it was detrimental. But I almost like I'd feel embarrassed walking in the next day. I'd be like I remember we had a game, so it was Norwich Leeds in League One. So Leeds are top. This was just before Christmas. Leeds are top, and we're obviously playing catch up. We've had a bad start to the season, and we're like, we've got work to do. Do you know what I mean? It's 1-1. Is it 1-1? Yeah, it's 1-1 away from home, Ellen Road. 90th minute. I've mishit a goal kick. It's gone straight to the striker. Runs through, scores 2-1. Game done, lost. And it was just horrific. Like, I beat myself up for days after that. I remember getting jeered the next game of fans.
Done in the game till then?
What was that?
How had you played in the game until that moment?
Oh, I think made saves as well. Like, done well, made saves, one mistake goal, and it's a bad looking mistake on the eye as well. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's just one of them. I think I beat myself up loads about it, and then but that was what I struggled with loads at the time, was my kicking and distribution, and that took a while to come in my game.
You got criticised a lot for that, didn't you?
But what?
You know, I've read and I've heard that, you know, Fraser not confident with the ball at his feet.
Yeah, it's a strange one, because
but your qualities are, you're a shot stopper.
Yeah, but then my argument, you get this a lot where people are like, oh, he's not good with the ball at his feet. Well, I've never actually played in a team that plays football from the back. Apart from Celtic, do you know what I mean? At Celtic, we play from the back, we'll get the ball down and play. But I've never actually played in a team where that's been what's demanded of you. So a lot of people are like, well, he's not good with the ball at his feet. Well, I've never actually played like that. But then I'm not saying I can't do it. No one's seen that I can't do it.
It's utter bollock. You're not good enough with your feet. It's bollock.
If people actually watch Celtic games, I'm hitting left foot goal kicks, right foot goal kicks, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like playing balls in the midfield.
Do you want to know why? There's something easy to say about you. You're 6'6", you're big, you're strong. You can look awkward on a football pitch because we're not the same size as everyone else. You in particular. So what an easy thing to say. Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he is good, but like he's not good with his feet. Give me any backup to what you just said. Is there any instances you can give me where Fraser has not been good enough with his feet, where he's received the ball, not knowing what to do, or made a bad decision? Like you say, if you're not in a team that plays out, you don't need to be putting it to defenders because they don't want it.
Well, that's the thing. They'll be like, yeah, like it's exactly what you say. It's just an easy thing for people to say, like, but they don't look at a team and be like, it's not like I'm stood in goal for, I don't know, Barcelona, and that's how they play, and I can't do it. Fair enough. Do you know what I mean? But I've never played in a team where that's been what's demanded of you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So how would you actually know one way or the other? So.
Is that something? Would you say that's been a focus now because you've been to Celtic and that's how they play out, or is it something that you made a decision for your own development in the past year, 2 years, 3 years? You've had to because that's the way the game's gone. You know, what was your thinking around that? You know, God, everybody's going that way. I need to develop it, or is it the coach that's looking at that development, or is it you that's saying, well, the goalie of the future is the guy who can play out from the back? What's your thinking?
I think the game's gone that way, and obviously more teams now try and play out from the back than, say, 10 years ago when I was playing at Norwich. But equally, it's one of them where everyone says, oh, yeah, got to be good with your feet. But then what's that actually mean? Do you know what I mean? Because, I mean, I can hit a right foot goal kick and a left foot goal kick probably the same. Like Harty's seen me left foot, right foot, whatever. But then how many teams, I've not played in a team where it's been, this is how we're playing and we're playing out from the back. Do you know what I mean?
you're not there to make that decision. Like, we are literally, a striker can kind of decide what kind of a striker he wants to be, no matter what team it is. He can decide whether he shoots from 40 yards. He can decide whether he runs channels, and he can decide whether he posts up. A goalkeeper, you do as you're told because you're the last line of defence, and you sticking to the game plan is so important. So if Fraser or myself, for instance, I've obviously got to bring myself into this, is being questioned, can he play with his feet? Can he play with his feet? You can't go out and take a risk and be like, you know what, I'm going to show these people who are irrelevant, by the way, because it's only the manager and the team that matter. You can't go out and all of a sudden start trying things. You play to what the manager wants, and if the manager doesn't want those risks, if the manager doesn't want to organise a system to work that way, you cannot do it. So the reason why, Jamie, you just said to me, or sorry, said on here that, oh, you know, people talk a lot about Fraser's feet, it's because it was something easy to criticise a very good goalkeeper about. It's not actual. If you go back to instances of Fraser being bad with his feet, all right, you might have seen that goal at Leeds, but other than that, that's not being bad with his feet. That's just making a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously seen a lot of you up close, like in training and whatever. And I've sat on a bench and watched you at England where you've sided it out to the fullback, like unbelievable. And at England was probably a bit more, still didn't really play from the back, but was a bit more playing from the back than maybe I did at the teams I've been at. But then, as you say, that's exactly it. But you can't then, so say you're at, I don't know, say you're at Burnley or whatever, for example, you can't, your manager obviously plays the way he wants to play, and the back four or do what they're told. So say you've got a goal kick, back four push up because you've been told this is how we're playing, you kick it long. You can't then on a Saturday go, well, I'm going to start trying to play from the back, because your team's not set up to do that. They're not expecting you to do that. And as you say, you're going against the manager and the game plan. Like, you've got to do what's demanded of you for the team. Exactly. So that's where it comes down to. So you can turn and be like, well, he's not good enough with his feet. But he plays in a team where they're not playing from the back. But he is good with his feet because he's picking out the front man who's 80 yards away and landing it on his chest 80 yards away. But that's what's demanded of him. So it all just depends a lot on what the team is and what's demanded of you by the manager. Like, you can't be like, well, I'm going to go out and play if the other 10 lads are doing something different.
Well, that's mental strength for me. I think that's a huge mental strength. To not buckle to the inevitable holes that are going to be picked in you. You need to be, as a keeper, it needs to be all about the team, all about the final outcome. So that's a big test as a goalkeeper, and for any young goalkeeper hearing me, so easily said nowadays. You know, you need to be good with your feet. Like, in your team, work out what that means being good with your feet. Like Fraser said, if you're on a team who relies on pitch position, you know, areas being hit, then being good with your feet is being able to wallop it the length of the field in an area where the team can fight. If the team wants you to be calm and wait for the defenders to split, then you need to be clear with your manager that for that to work, you need to work on that religiously. It needs to be, systems need to be in place for you to play out with your feet. You don't need, like Edison, in my opinion, is a freak. Like, he could play out with his feet for anyone. You could stick him in any team and he could play out with his feet because he is that good. But I think a lot of the other technically goalkeepers who are classed as being good with their feet, they need to be in a team that works around that. If you're not in a team that doesn't work at being good with your feet, then you can't be good with your feet, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. Some people will be like, or like, say some coaches and places will be like, oh yeah, we'll play out from the back. Well, that's great, but you can't just say that to the keeper, and then you need to educate the other 10 players on what they're doing if we're doing that. You can't be like, the keeper's going to play out from the back and the back four go and do their own thing and stand in. Like, everyone needs to be drilled on their individual roles and responsibilities as to how you then make that work. And as you say, then, so it's not just as simple as being like, oh, he can't use his feet or he can't play out, because you all have to be on the same wavelength, same game plan for it to work. Like, you're a team, right? It's a team sport for a reason, so you need to work as a team. Like, you can't just be like, well, it's that one person that's not good enough. Like, you all need to be drilled in exactly what you're doing.
It's a good topic of definitely a good topic because it relates to both of you. Fraser, what do you recall of the first time you met Joe?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, actually. Because it was a strange one. Because obviously, for me, my first time in the England squads, I was a Celtic player. I'd never played in the Premier League. So it's a weird one because, I mean, it's not often a non-Premier League playing footballers in the England squad. Yeah. So I obviously turned up. The only two people, I didn't know anyone. I've not really played against anyone. Andy Carroll I knew. He was in the squad, and obviously I was in Newcastle with him. And then, but it's not even like I've played against you. Do you know what I mean? I've literally turned up. You're right. And then I can't think who else was in the squad, in that first squad. I want to say John Ruddy, maybe.
Yeah, probably was.
And it was just mad because obviously, but I think you kind of got that straight away that I was going to be a bit out of, a fish out of water in a way, because I didn't really know anyone. Obviously, Andy was good for me. But no, it was brilliant. You made it so easy. And then I was kind of a bit even though I was a little bit starstruck, weirdly, I kind of came in, I was wow, and then because you're such a tight knit group, I kind of stuck with you pretty much the whole trip, just because obviously we train with each other and naturally you want to be closer to the keepers. Do you know what I mean? So I was but then now you were brilliant for me. When I look at the England days, it's a hard environment just to walk into, and then especially I felt because I wasn't actually a Premier League player. I remember, I think you, me, and Phil Jagielka bantering, but actually he had played in goal more Premier League games than I had at that point. So I was oh, brilliant. So it's just one of them. But obviously, from day one, you were brilliant. Just made it so easy. What's a very tough environment to walk into. You helped me massively with, and then even for all the squads and making my debut and things like that. I think you were always a big voice who was there to kind of help me. It wasn't a case of sulking or whatever. I mean, obviously I made my debut in a friendly, but a lot of people would have been oh, well, he's playing. Do you know what I mean? And not really help. Whereas you kind of put me and obviously the team first. You were very you kind of helped me just a kind of calming voice in my ear before the game, because your head's all over the place before you make your debut. You're so no, it's brilliant. I mean, out of all the lads, you were definitely probably the main one who helped me the most. It's
good to hear, because I think a lot of people listening often think it's me against that position. He's got my spot, and testament to Joe. No surprise that when I said Fraser's called and he said, yeah, absolutely great guy, shows that whilst there's, Joe, you can elaborate on this, because I don't want to use the word competition. It's always the other person's bringing out the very best in me. And Joe can't be at his best unless you're at your best, and vice versa. And I know the goalkeepers are very different from the outfield players. You guys always talk about it as being this tight-knit group. So, what can you elaborate, Joe, your feeling of Fraser coming in? He's just said you helped him, but how are you thinking about that in terms of, where you are in the team and the squad, and the same at club level?
I'm just looking at it as being with England was just the most amazing buzz for me. One absolute honour and privilege, genuinely, to be around it, to be a part of it. When I first came into the squads, I remember just really not feeling like I didn't belong, but that didn't bother me. It just didn't feel like anything. And I always felt that, you know, the common criticism of England as a footballing nation was that it didn't feel as one. It felt quite segregated. And I just thought, but I agreed, and for this team to really, really do well, I felt like we had to be one. And when I look at working with other goalkeepers, it's easy to relate to people who are very similar to you. And I just saw a lot of me in characteristics-wise with Fraser, you know, just I could see him coming in and not quite knowing if he was good enough. And I was in a situation where I'd been around so many top people, and I knew straight away he was good enough. So it was all, and I knew obviously my position in the team, being playing and having quite a strong voice in the team, that I had to give people that power as fast as I possibly could, just to make them, allow them to be themselves. You know, Fraser's, like I've spoke about before, 6'7", 6 foot, huge man, huge, strong, you know, every single describing word, is it adjective? Is that describing me? Right, people? Is that right?
Yeah. Adjective, yeah.
Yeah, like to describe Fraser, but at the same time, meeting him, he's still unsure. He needs people to, he needs to feel that people around him believe in him. And, you know, I got that about him straight away. And I saw this saves, you know, I'd watched him Champions League for Celtic, like respecting him as a goalkeeper, which helps. Then saw him as a player, and just, I don't know whether it's competition, I don't know whether it goes out the window. That's not confidence in the fact that I think I'm going to be one. But I want to be around people who just want to work, who want to push each other, but have also a great time. Like, we had a great time together.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think when you look at that group we ended up having, where it was you, me, and Ben Foster,
yeah,
like, that's probably the most fun, like, enjoyable working group I've ever had. Like, we used to push each other so hard, like, on the training pitch. We'd have a laugh as we did it, but we worked so hard and the quality was so high. And then we'd go in the gym together, like, absolutely smash it, like, all three of us together. That's definitely the best group, like, I've ever worked in, as for quality and just togetherness. And obviously, as you said,
not a bad group, that.
Oh, but as you say, like, obviously you go from being
play phrase, like I've stressed that. Like I spoke to Fozzie about it, I spoke to you about it. I was like, if I didn't exist, it wouldn't matter, because you'd exist. Do you know? I mean, in the team, had a team before. If I didn't exist, that wouldn't necessarily matter, because Fraser would play. And if me and Fraser didn't exist, Ben Foster would play. The levels were just, you know, no one was there. Everyone was just like banging away at the top level. Everyone knowing that us having a brilliant performance in training, no one even batted an eyelid, which is a huge compliment. But if someone chucked one in, it was like, whoa. Like, is he on the level of the other guys? It wasn't the other way around. It wasn't like, oh, geez, you are unbelievable today. It was like, yeah, all three of you are good. Like, what do you expect? But if you had one, it stood out more.
What was so good about that group as well is what you've just said, is where obviously we're all number ones at our club, but then I think all three of us, as soon as we stepped into the kind of England, into that group, like, you were obviously number one. And then I think me and Fozzie as well were like, I don't know, it was just, you'd always do what was best for, like, who was playing or the team, and it wasn't even an effort for us. We just slipped into that where it was like, this is what's needed from us. Because there's nothing worse. You will have worked in groups at some point where there's keepers clashing heads, or there's two who, there's a number one who's playing and another guy who's
not being supported.
Thinks he should be number one. Mm-hmm. And then the atmosphere turns sour because of that. Whereas we kind of knew what was needed to keep whoever was playing kind of happy, training well, whatever. So that was the thing in that group as well. Like, we had such a good time. I think everyone, there was no kind of egos. We just went out, we trained hard, smashed it in the gym, fully supported whoever was playing. And just all three of us always put the team first. And that's why that group was so good as well.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I'm looking at that group there, all number ones at your clubs at the time, right? And then you go away and you almost have to accept that, because it's that's the environment. That's the club. That's the national team environment. How does that work for you at club level? Because you've experienced it. You know, if we talk about the past couple of years, you've experienced being number one, and for the first time in your career, being dropped.
What, as in, what we're chatting about now?
So Jay's saying, coming into
What, as in when you step into England?
How do you take that mentality from England? You're supporting, you're being competitive, you know he's the number one, but you're all at it. Past few years, Southampton, change in the direction of your career. Number one, okay, come back from injury. Let's go back to there. Yeah, let's not scoot around the bush. Let's straight to the point. You're number one at Southampton. Some new goalkeepers are coming, young goalkeepers. Harry Lewis, we know him well. All three of us know him well. Harry comes in. Alex comes in. You're in. You're number one. You get injured. Tell us the mentality. Where are you?
Big injury as well, Fred. Like just
not a patella, right?
Yeah, so ruptured my patella tendon. So
I remember getting the news, like
it was day before we were meant to meet up with England.
Yeah.
So then, just one of them. I've done it, and I've just felt a pop in my knee, and I was like, I've gone.
You kind of let it ride onto you, and then gone to clear it, and
yeah, just sat back like you do it,
yeah.
hundreds of times a season. Sat back into it, great strike, and just felt like a pop in my knee. Felt like my kneecap kind of pop into my thigh, and I'm just lying there, and I'm like, but anyway, they come on, and anyway, you have kind of 5 seconds of sheer panic where you know you've done something, but then there was no pain after that because obviously the tendon completely snapped. So anyway, they're on with the stretcher and that, and I'm like, no, give it 30 seconds. I think I can play on here. Like, it's not sore. And they're like, can't phrase. So anyway, but that was hard, that, because obviously it was my first big injury whilst playing football. And it was an injury that no one had ever, well, I knew of one other person having it in football, and he actually retired from it. So there's Matt Murray. So he had it, and that kind of being the end of him. I know he had tried to come back, and it happened again.
He's a big lad as well. Like, you're a big lad, do you know what I mean? It's not like...
Yeah. So then it's not great when you're looking and you're like, I've done this injury, and the only person I've ever heard of doing it ended up retiring from it. So anyway, had the surgery done. Weirdly, like, I mean, I found it hard, obviously. But then I think what was hard to get your head around was just the length of it. You know, when someone sits in front of you and goes, you're going to be out for 10 months, you're like, wowzers. But then, to be fair, what was really good about the physios and stuff at Southampton, they kind of split it into chunks, almost like 4 to 6 weeks chunks. So then once they did that, and you're just looking at, right, I need to get through the next 4 weeks and do this, and then hit this goal and you're on to the next one. So for me, it was good. It's like they did that. It was very kind of goal orientated. So you're getting little wins and stuff. And the hardest part is the first bit where you got 3 months, or I don't know, in that injury, probably 3, 4, 5 months of just what's quite tedious. Do you know what I mean? It's easy.
It's on your own at this point, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's just like you're on your own. You can't. You're away from. You're on a completely different schedule to the lads, basically. So you're trying to deal with it on your own. Like the easy part's when you can get in the gym, because I love the gym, love lifting weights. Do you know what I mean? So that's easy, like no problem. But it's just those first few months where you're thinking, oh, I've got another however many months of this, and it's learning to walk again effectively, because you've legs being locked out straight in a knee brace for 2 months, and then you've got to get your knee to bend so much and stuff like that. So that was the hard part. And weirdly, as your rehab goes on, it's easier because you get in the gym, you're lifting weights, you're able to do bike sessions. Then you get out on the pitch for the football again. Then you start doing goalkeeping stuff. So and you're also thinking, oh, there's only 2 months to go, or like I've come 8 months, there's only 2 months left or whatever. So it was a bit of a strange one. So it was tough, like lots of ups and downs along the way. Good days, bad days, like normal life. But then it was bizarre in the end, because at the time I'd obviously got injured. We brought in Martin Stecklenburg on loan for the season.
Yeah.
So we got to kind of Christmas time, and the team was kind of struggling. The team was having a bit of a nightmare.
Who's Koeman?
Yeah, Koeman. So absolutely loved him. One of like my favourite managers to work with.
Southampton had some team as well, didn't they? Like,
yeah,
players that were there now, like.
Oh, we had such a good team, and for whatever reason, at that point, just before
when Lallana was there.
Nah, so Lallana had moved on, so we kind of had like Mane, Pella.
Not a bad game.
We had a great squad. Yeah, fine. We had a great team. It was just one of them where it was just they were going through that spell where they just couldn't win a game, and we got to. I think they just had the FA Cup game in January.
Yeah.
Start of January, and I'd been back training not long, only a week, 10 days. I played one under 23s game. Played Chelsea in like the whatever.
We're on fire.
What was that?
Did you have a good game?
Yeah, it was literally my first game back. I was buzzing just to play. Like, I felt way off it still, but like 1-1-0, made a few saves. I was like, and then Stecklenburg felt his hamstring before the midweek game. So I think I played the Friday night, he played the Saturday, and then he was feeling his hamstring. And then it was you're playing, and I was like buzzing, but also terrified, because I was just like, I felt nowhere near ready. I was like, I've not done anywhere near enough training here.
Injury-wise, or just like in terms of feeling comfortable in the goal?
Just feeling comfortable in the goal again. Like, my knee felt good. Knee felt better than it ever did. Like, came back so strong. Strongest I've ever been, really. It was just getting that sharpness, and you know what it's like, getting your distances, playing with a back four, like. But literally, I got the shout. So it was the Tuesday. They finished training on the Tuesday, and Martin was feeling his hamstring. So I was leaving training, and I'm like, I didn't know what was going on, but I'm half thinking, well, I'm not going to play because I'm just back. So, and then I get a call in the evening. And it's like, right, you're playing tomorrow. So I'm like, so anyway, play the game, keep a clean sheet, I think. We keep a clean sheet, win the game. So ideal. But I remember in the game, I got the exact same scenario where I'd done my knee.
Yeah.
I got a back pass from the left, had a touch, and went and closed down from the left. And in my head, I'd not replicated that scenario again. Like, and all I was thinking at the time of dealing with it was like, this is exactly how I did my knee. And I remember I just literally just had the touch. And I think I kicked out of play about 30 yards up the pitch. I was like, I don't even care. Like, I've survived it. I'm all good.
So you're officially fit now.
Yeah, so in my head I was like, oh, well, that's ticked off. So anyway, it was mad though. So we won that. And then I think we didn't concede for something like 6 games. So literally came back in, kept 6 clean sheets.
That was nearly, wasn't that nearly the club record? And you broke the club record when you came back, didn't you?
Yeah, so came back and then broke the club record straight away. Didn't concede, got player of the month.
Just out of interest, how have you started working together at this point?
Just after that.
Okay, just
Oh,
after that. I do remember. I remember you calling me though and saying, you know, club record.
To be fair, I think we met in the middle of it. I think the first time we met was maybe the end of the January. So I'd started playing, say, the 10th of January. So probably about 3 games after being back, we met up in London. So we'd spoken to each other for a while before that, and then obviously with it being Christmas, New Year's, and me being the most elusive man on the planet. So no, we obviously got going then, but it's just mad the way it all worked out, because I came back, felt nowhere near ready really, and then but fans were brilliant with me at the time. Obviously came back in and couldn't have got off to a better start after having like such a big injury. Do you know what I mean? And then so it's ideal really.
It's interesting what you just said there. Fans were brilliant with me. Manager was brilliant with me, and kind of leans towards what Joe was saying in terms of you. You know, it's very important for you to feel wanted, supported, loved, which is no different for all human beings, Fraser. It's just that I think there's for some people it's much more important that they see that validation externally, and it kind of leads to that season finishing. Yeah, what happens next in that journey for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been one of them who, I don't know, I think, as you say, everyone needs to feel the love at some point. Do you know what I mean? I think for me, probably, as you say, more so than other people. But yeah, I mean, obviously came back from that injury, finished that season strongly. And then Koeman left. So I signed a new deal, and then Koeman left about a week after. And then...
and did you, like, obviously you liked Koeman, didn't you?
I loved him. I loved him. He was so good to work with, like, for me. I mean, he was one of them. He was just so good. I think, obviously, everyone knows Ronald Koeman.
Hold on. So this is the whole entire, supposedly, outside of football thing. You're not good with your feet, but Ronald Koeman loved you as a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Well, just to be clear.
And then, so he was brilliant. Like, he was one of them. Like, we never really spoke, but I just knew that he liked me. Like, we'd see each other and just laugh at each other. We had like a funny relationship. Like, we'd just look at each other, laugh, and just walk on. And like, I knew he liked me. He was brilliant. Like, if you ever made a mistake, he would just come speak to you one-on-one. You'd be stood at breakfast and he'd be like, the day after the game, we'd be stood at breakfast and he'd be like, what do you think of the goal? And you know what it's like as a keeper, like, you know when you should do better or whatever. And I'd be like, yeah, I should do better, should have done this or whatever. And you'd have a 30-second chat about it and it would be done and you'd move on. And you'd be like, right, well, don't worry about it. On we go. Which is obviously nice because...
It's important to address that, though, because there's nothing worse than knowing that there's some sort of feeling towards the goal. Like, I don't know if you're saying, pretty much saying, like, I want to get it out there. I want it like, shit, I know that. I want that known that I know. And I want it known that it was my fault, and then we can move forward.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you can't just not say anything. But equally, having a manager stand and scream at you after a game when you've let a goal in. Do you know what I mean? Equally, I'm like, you should have done better. There's a way of dealing with it for me. Like, if you talk to me, you'll get more out of me. If you shout at me, I don't really need that. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
As we know, like, as I've just said, kind of need to feel the love. And obviously, I'm not saying that means you're immune from making mistakes and taking criticism.
Yeah.
But it's just a way of dealing with people. Do you know what I mean?
No, I think there is a time when you need to shout at someone, or if someone's not listening, or someone's not tried, or someone's just deliberately going against the grain. But like, as a personality, we're very similar. Like, if I make a mistake, it's not down to any other reason other than it's a mistake. Like, it just happened. I'm not perfect, so that's why it can be dealt with properly. If someone is not turned up for training 3 times in the week, Then when they have, you know what I mean, they've not tied their laces, gone into it on a Saturday and done shit. Sometimes you do need to go at them because they need telling that's not good enough. But if someone's literally down to human error, then it needs to be handled as a human error.
Well, that's the thing. Like at the end of the day, like we're all just humans who are playing football. Like it's different if you're late for training 3 times, as you say, or. But then being a goalkeeper, the margins are so fine. Like none of us try to make a mistake. Like you might be 0.001 of a second off, and it's a goal. Do you know what I mean? Or so it's just one of them. But we had me and Koeman had a great relationship anyway, and then obviously he left. And then Claude Puel came in. And the whole team we've obviously had such a good team. Whole club's in a great place. Brilliant club, brilliant people all over the place. Just in a good place, like winning, finished the season well. And then, obviously Puel came in and the whole team struggled a bit. Whole atmosphere kind of changed, a bit different. So we kind of struggled through that whole season as a team, and it was just hard. It was hard work the whole season.
It kind of lost its identity, you know, like Southampton weren't there at the time. They were the up and coming. They were,
I think
you burst right up from League One, hadn't they, as a team?
Yeah, they were flying. Obviously, Pochettino he was there, had done well. Obviously, there'd been a bit of a turnover when Koeman then came in. Just before Koeman came in, obviously that was the summer, kind of Luke Shaw, Lambert left. So anyway, they got through that kind of transition, had a few great years. And then, it was just one of them. Obviously, the manager changed and season was a bit of a struggle. The football wasn't as good on the eye. Obviously, with Koeman, we had a spell where you'd go out and you'd be 3-0 up after 20 minutes every home game. Like, we went through a spell at the start of I think, the first season where literally, I think we beat Sunderland 8-0. Like, you go into you'd be playing the top 4 and you'd feel unbeatable. You were like, we're going to win today. You might get a draw, but I think we came out of every game or something.
Yeah.
And obviously the fans were buzzing off that. We were flying. We finished, I think, maybe 5th and 6th. Just missed out on Champions League by maybe 3 or 4 points one year. And then, so then obviously manager changed, style of football changed. It was just a struggle. And obviously such a high standard had been set before, and with obviously Pochettino and then Koeman, things kind of changed a bit. So anyway, that whole year was...
I remember you said with Claude, you had Ronald who you knew where you stood with you. You could smirk with him across the other side of the room. You could make a mistake and know that you'd be able to discuss it. And I remember you telling me about Claude. Like, he didn't quite have that. Like, his managing mentality style wasn't as human, if you like. It wasn't about human relationships, and you were just like his management sounded like you were the players, he was the manager. You know, you were 2 totally different people, and that's how he kept in. That's why, to me, it sounded like it was more difficult for the rise to carry on at Southampton, and for you, it sounded like you didn't know where you stood with it, you didn't know how you felt about anything.
Yeah, it was
limited English.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard. Like, his English wasn't great, and even with Koeman, he walked into a room and he had such a big presence about him, whereas Puel didn't have that same presence, and I think he struggled to get his message across because his English wasn't great, and so I think all the lads found it tough. I think as well, probably I just wasn't his type of keeper at the end of the day. I think probably, if you said to him, what's your ideal keeper? He would have said, Hugo Lloris, which is natural, obviously, French number 1, Claude being French. And so I just don't think I was probably his kind of keeper. But
So what was happening? What was happening in that period then for you? Then is that when you were, you got dropped and you weren't playing?
No, so I played the full season with Claude, and then Claude left, and then we had Pellegrino came in. So he came in. It was a similar situation to kind of Claude, but I played until. When did I play until? I played until we played Boxing Day, and then I got dropped after the Boxing Day game. That was when, but just before that, a couple of weeks before that, we met in Manchester, and I was playing City the next day.
Oh.
And we had we sat there, didn't we? Same again, we probably were like, oh, we'll meet for 45 minutes. And we sat there for 3 hours, do you know what I mean?
So Joe wasn't at City at this point, was he?
No.
Okay. I remember, I swear, that meeting. You were almost chucking the towel in.
Oh, it's just so, I was just at the point of so frustrated.
Yeah. I've got to say, that for me and you, that was one of those moments. I've had plenty with Joe, plenty with others, but I'll never forget coming away from that hotel in Manchester. You were ready for chucking the towel in. You're like, I'm done with it. Manager this, team this. And sometimes people always say to me, Jamie, why are you talking them out of what they want to be? And then they go, oh, you're trying to motivate them. I'm like, no, it wasn't that. I remember just thinking, if ever I've done my work with somebody, it was in that moment, in that hotel. And it was the day before the game, wasn't it? Yeah. And City were on a mad run. In fact,
yeah,
weren't they?
So, yeah.
Go on, you tell the rest of the story.
No. Yeah, so we obviously met and then in the hotel, and obviously I was frustrated with how things were going and team, so many different things anyway. So obviously we had that chat, played them the next day.
Conversation, work chat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was definitely a conversation. So yeah, we had the conversation. And I remember, the one thing I remember, there's one line that I remember from that, and you said, embrace the challenge. Whatever the challenge is, doesn't matter, do you know what I mean? But just embrace the challenge. Like, you can go one or two ways. You can either be like, nah, and go that way, or you can be like, right, bring it on. I'm going to embrace it. So anyway, had the game the next day. We lost, which, so it was the one where Sterling scored in like the 96th minute curler.
Yeah.
So, but I must have made 10 saves.
You had a worldie.
It was one of, I had an absolute worldie, and it's one of them where, because you then lost, I don't think it got like really noticed. Obviously, people like, you had a good game, but you scored right in the 96th minute and kept their run going. Do you know what I mean?
It didn't get noticed. Fraser, it didn't get noticed. I'll tell you why it didn't get noticed. It didn't get noticed because City were on such a run. It didn't get noticed because it was the 96th minute. Sterling was on a mad run himself. But you had a world-class game against a world-class team.
Yeah.
And that was the one game. I swear, when he got the ball, they were in that build-up. I had two thoughts. I was like, this is an unbelievable performance, and he's gonna kick on from this. And then I thought, they're gonna score here.
Yeah.
But it was great for them because it kept an unbelievable run going for them as well. But I just remember just thinking, Fraser, I'll tell you what I did say, and we're going to go to this in a second. I remember reminding you, I said, tell me which big games you've played in that you go in, manager this, club this, and you're about to go and play City. I said, you've played in bigger games than Premier League versus Man City. And then you told me, you started rattling them off. Celtic, yeah?
Yeah.
So it's very good to know, because I remember you just letting go of all the club stuff, all the stuff you couldn't control, and getting back to that Fraser being the best shot stopper that he could be.
The wall. But So the ball rejector.
Yeah,
The ball rejector.
the ball rejector. So, I mean, that was a great night. Yeah, you need to reject some of them dogs in the background.
Oh,
Hey,
I don't know what.
hey.
I've heard enough of my chat. Yeah, but it was.
Tell us about those big nights. What you remember of them? You know.
Tell me about beating Barcelona 1-0 with one shot and then having 4,000. Tell me about that. Because I suppose we had a good game against them, and I lost. You had.
It was mad because it was a strange one because we played them like the week. We had them in like the double header in the Champions League, so we played them 2 weeks earlier.
You kept drawing Barca. You kept having
no, we lost in the last minute. It was 1-1, and we lost in like the 92nd minute. Jordi Alba.
Played them in a few consecutive group stages.
So we had them like year after year. We went through a spell where, so we played them away and we lost 2-1. But like, I had a good game there.
Unreal game.
And then we got back to Celtic Park, so we got them in the return leg. But like, we got so much confidence from that first game. We were like, right, bring it on. And obviously, Celtic Park on a European night is like ridiculous, like best atmosphere I've ever heard. So, but yeah, it was just one of those games where I think we had something like 10% possession. Like we were camped on the edge of our box for the whole game. Like it was mad.
Great. That like Barcelona have had some great teams, but that was the like, you look at them now and they're brilliant, but like then what?
You've obviously played against them, and like there were so many times where you're camped on the edge of the box and you're concentrating so hard as a keeper.
Yeah.
The ball just gets moved, shifted again, you're shifting position like non-stop. And then someone hit like diag and you turn and you're like, oh, buzzing. It's like gonna go out of play. Yeah. And then you look and Dani Alves is stood at like right wing. And you're like, oh, so like you're trying to concentrate like so hard and you think that's going to be a break in concentration and you've got no idea he's even there. And like they just keep moving it. But it was just one of those games where like just everything kind of went my way, do you know what I mean? I think got an assist. Like shrunk to Heidi.
What's his name? The Armstrong?
Nah, it was Tony Watt.
That was it. He was young, wasn't he?
Young lads come on as sub and like I've ended up, I think it was a messy free kick. I've caught it, like patted it down, anyway, like trying to kill time, get to the edge of the box, and I've shanked this side, probably the worst side anyone's ever hit. So I've shanked it into midfield and it's just bounced all the way through. He's through, scored. So that took it to like 2-0. And I don't know, you're looking at the clock the whole time, every like few seconds, and it was just one of those nights where just everything went our way. They scored right at the end, like so it finished 2-1, and you just like hanging on. Like every minute feels like about an hour. But yeah, like what a result! Like just unbelievable. Yeah, just what a feeling. You know what I mean? It was just one of them where you were just like just felt a bit surreal. But yeah,
being your style of goalie, Fraser, when you have a good game, like it really stands out because you do, like I say, you do things like with such strength and kind of you make the goal look small or whatever. How do you like? It's easy to say how we feel when we've had a bad game, and everyone wants to talk about, oh, how do you deal with a mistake? Blah, blah, blah. Like, come on, man, let's enjoy the good moments. How do you feel when you have a big game? Like, I feel. I just want to smile. I just want to be around people. I don't even want to say anything. I just want to be around my people, being happy that's me. What do you do when you have those nights? Everyone walks out talking about Fraser Forster.
Oh, it was mad. I think that one was special because my mum and dad were there. Like they were still living in Newcastle at the time, and they'd driven up just for the game. So yeah, like for that one, it was just. Couldn't wait to get up to the players' lounge and just see them and just not even chat about the game. Just you're just buzzing and you just, as you say, want to be around people and don't care what we talk about.
Exactly.
So nice that they were there and like I'm not one. I think the manager after the game was like, so we've played on the Wednesday night Champions League. He was like, oh, just see you Friday. Like, just, he was absolutely buzzing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was like, oh, if you want to go out, go out. Like, he was absolutely gone. So he was just so buzzing. But like, for me, I just wanted to just be around, like, go up to the players' lounge, see my mum and dad.
Yeah.
Be like, just chill and just enjoy the moment. Like, just be like, almost just sit down and be like, and then just, because then, like, it takes a while for you to even absorb it a bit. Like, it feels a bit surreal, and then, but like, there's no better feeling. Like, there's no way to really, it's so hard to describe that feeling, but it's no better feeling.
Did you start to believe at that point, or when did you believe that you played against one of the best teams ever, one of the best strikers ever? What are you thinking as a shot stopper at this point about your belief?
It's one of them. I think you go into those games and obviously you're buzzing. Like, you're buzzing because they're the games you dream of as a kid. I mean, like, the atmosphere at Celtic Park, unbelievable. Playing against probably the best team at the time, like, ridiculous players. And you're just buzzing, I think. And then as the game goes on as well, like...
I know, Fraser, but I know you're buzzing, but what are you believing about you, either at that time as a goalkeeper, as a person? I've got Messi in front of me. I'm doing, you're doing your thing. Are you thinking, I'm unstoppable? I'm
just got that feeling, like, as the game starts, you say you make your first save, and then you get like a boost of adrenaline. Obviously, crowds going. You make that first save, you're buzzing. You make the second save, and as it goes on, you're just like, you're almost growing and growing, and you do feel unstoppable. Like, at that time, and it was one of them where we've used that phrase, obviously chatting about before that Man City game. And it literally was just one of them. It was like, you're not expected to win. Like, we're Celtic, obviously playing in Scotland, you're playing against Barca. And you're not expected to win, but you're like, right, well, let's just go and embrace the challenge. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got nothing to lose. Like, just go and give it everything and just embrace it. And I think that's what I've kind of always done in those games, like those European games up there. But it's just such, like, they're the games you dream of playing in, and I don't know, you have such a buzz, like, everything about them, like the Champions League music before the start, standing there, the ball's different, like, obviously you're just buzzing off kind of all of those things. And
did you have that, Joe, when you played against Barca?
Do you know what, like, when you've had those games or had a game, like, I've just literally found them so much fun. Like,
yeah,
I couldn't go any more back to being a kid when I'm flying. Could not go any more back to being a kid and just having a great time playing football. Like, that is literally how I'm feeling on that pitch. You said, how do you feel there to Fraser? Like, almost, you weren't teeing him up, I know you weren't, but if you were doing an interview, they'd want you to say, I just feel like I'm the best. I feel like, like I'm superhuman in goal. Like, in terms of comparing to anyone, like, that is the furthest thing from my head. Me flying in the game is me just literally roaring in my head, thinking, this is too brilliant. Like, I know it's me. I know they're laughing their heads off. I'm from Shrewsbury, like, and I'm playing on the big stage against the greatest players on the planet. Like, that is where my head's at. When I'm in a moment of thinking or knowing that I'm really playing well, training, get a run of games, and that is where my head's at. My head is just laughing, thinking, this is awesome.
The reason why I've got a big grin on my face is because I know that's just the purity of you, both of you. Just, you describe it as the buzz, and it's the purity of you just playing football like you're a kid, and
but that's
it's not the as people would assume, oh, I've made it and I'm a big time player and I'm on the biggest. It's just the purity of you playing football.
But that's what people forget, I think. Like, just go out and have fun. Like, it was weird. Like, one time at Southampton, he ended up saying it to me more than once. But there was Ralph Kruger, who was chairman at the time, and you'd see him, and he would see you like a pre-match meal. He would be like, "Just go out and have fun today." And then you're like, "Oh yeah, like you're actually meant to enjoy what you're doing. Like you meant." And those games are just where you go out and you have so much fun, and like you're just buzzing. You're so happy. Like you don't think about anything else. You're just like, next shot, save, next shot, save. Like, it's just so much fun. Like, as Harty says, like, you're just absolutely buzzing and you're just...
When you've got proper teammates as well, I mean, proper teammates, like your boys, who football's full of people that you work with, you get on with, but like, I've really enjoyed it when I've been with the lads, like my people. Can be involved in a game, even looking at the bench, bit of eye contact with Fraser, whizzed out a side volley, start laughing. It's just brilliant. Like, make a say, one of the lads is like, see my friends after the game. After a big game, there's no well done. It's literally roaring with laughter, hugging. Like, that was brilliant. Like that's football at its finest to me. Just having a great time. Even the other way around, like seeing one of your good friends do well is what a feeling.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Like those moments with people where you just, I don't know, something happens and you just look at each other and you just laugh. Like you make a save and you've got no idea how you've done it, and someone's just laughing and you're like, but that's what it's all about. I mean, those moments. Absolute
quality. We know, I mean, you've had a lot of game-winning performances. Joe was just saying, I call it, you've got so many memories and references for being at your best, in great situations. But also, it's not just the peak of the mountain that you get your lessons from. It's actually the challenges and the down times. And I remember you saying, this is the first time I've been dropped, and getting yourself back in the team, and you've done that, and then bringing people in and having to adjust to situations. What's really interesting for me is that you've often looked at Joe's career and then looked at what's happened in his career in the past few years. But I've always said to you, remember, there's always somebody who's watching your career as well. And you're very close to, somebody else who I work with is young Harry Lewis. And, what would you advise to youngsters today, in terms of being a goalkeeper, high level? Somebody's watching you, Harry's watching you. Harry's always said to me, God, look at Joe's career, look at Fraser's career. And I'm like, Harry, you've got to learn from them too. So what is it that you pass on to somebody else, knowing the challenges that you've gone through and the highs? What are you saying to them?
I mean, the biggest one is to control the controllables. I think it's so hard to do. And that's definitely the biggest thing for me. The thing, so easy, like there's so much noise around you that can drag you in different directions. But I think if you need to believe in yourself and you need to control the controllables and just have your goals and know what you're working towards, and just really do your best to focus on that. I think, obviously, I think you've got to work hard, but that's a given. But then mentally, I think you've got to control the controllables. Because it's so hard being a keeper. I think there's so much criticism comes rightly or wrongly. A lot of the time wrongly, because it's just easy.
Work hard's a given, Fraser. What do you mean work hard? Do you mean is working hard
Oh,
wasn't just on the field.
no, I think
To be able to control the controllables, you really need to be able to handle your shit. You really need to be really like, because otherwise you don't even know what the controllables are.
exactly as you say, like if you don't educate, it's almost educating yourself. Like doing the work with like Jamie, like you learn what controllables are, you learn the things that everyone's different, so people fall into different traps here and there. Like people have their own lot of tendencies, whether they get distracted by criticism from him, or he doesn't know what you're about or anything. Do you know what I mean? And you might be off focusing on that instead of focusing on actually playing a game, or I don't know. So I think you need to mentally even more so than physically. Like I think you've got to obviously put yourself in a position where you've got the ability physically on the pitch, but I think mentally is 90% of the game when you're a pro or like a top level player. So I think you've got to do the work off the pitch to have yourself in a good place, to know how to deal with different scenarios, different circumstances. So is he, where I said earlier, where I didn't actually really seek this kind of, well, I didn't really work on psychology until I got injured. So I almost waited for that dip, for like the first dip. Yeah, but then if you're a young lad, when you're playing well, it's easy. Do you know what I mean? But that's when really, if you're a young lad, you should be looking into it now, learning now. So you've got those skills, so then you don't have that big dip, and then you're like, right, well, I need to learn then. Obviously, you're still going to have to learn, because until you're in that situation, it's obviously you don't really know what it's about. But there are tools and skills that Jamie can teach you, or you can learn, so you're prepared. So maybe the dip isn't as big, or
the dip's going to come, isn't it, Fraser?
Like it's like life. Like it's the same as life. You're gonna have good days, bad days. You're gonna have spells where things are great, and then something happens and things aren't great. But football's the exact same. There's peaks and troughs, and I think when things are going well, I think obviously never get too ahead of yourself. Do you know what I mean? You still need to keep your feet on the floor. But then, obviously, at some point you're going to have that dip, whether it's an injury, form. There's not one player in their career has just gone like plain sailing. Everyone's gone up and down. So you've got to be able to deal with those dips as well as obviously, as we said, like it's easy when things are going well.
So what's next? What's next for Fraser Forster? Very quickly, in terms of, well, obviously we don't know what's happening football-wise just yet, but you've got a great season off the football pitch. What are you doing to keep this, keep your mind ticking and the sword sharp? What keeps you busy and your mind active?
Well, I'm still doing that business degree, so I'm quite focused on that in a minute, trying to get that done and kind of reading different business books and stuff, just to keep the brain ticking over. Obviously, it's a bit of a strange time at the minute as well, where with everything that's going on, but just doing that really, and then just keeping that routine. I think obviously staying fit physically, I think that's good for your mind as well. If you've actually got something to focus on and schedule, and then, as you say, I think as you get older as well, I think when it comes heading back to football chat, I think you do kind of open up a bit more and you actually talk to people. So like when you're young, I think sometimes you're a bit like, oh, I'm the only one who thinks like this. And then like we're doing here, like I'll say something and Joel will be like, oh yeah, exact same. Like I felt like this then. And you'll be like, oh, like, and as you get older, I think you get more confident just to be like, you know what, I struggled at that time with this. And then you're like, oh, I'm the exact same. And you actually talk about it and you help each other. Whereas I think for like younger guys, I think it's a bit harder when you're finding your feet in football to be like, you know what, I actually struggle with this, or stuff like that. So I think just chatting to people is a big thing. Just pick up the phone and, you know, just having whether it's a chat or whether often the chats lead into the conversations, as Jamie would say. Do you know what I mean? And then.
So does that mean we're going to get you to camp then?
Yeah, I keep threatening to come to camp, but never make it. I've got no excuse this year. So.
Because technically, Joe, you tell him what, because we were like, Fraser needs to be here, but not just needs to be here, not because there's something wrong. We wanted you here because of this is what would be going on.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, Fraser, most players only look at it when something's going wrong. The benefit now is that you don't have to look at it as something's gone wrong. Now it's exactly what you've just said, which is actually, I've said something, Joe's just said something, and you don't get in that situation where you're in a room together and you have this type of conversation. What do you think, Joe? What's the...
Yeah, it's a great couple of days. It was really insightful. It was really interesting. It was really, like Fraser said there, you get older, you get more open, or you'd like to think you can get more open because you're more confident and braver, especially when stuff is already behind you. But you've got to keep growing. You've got to keep growing. On and off the field. You know, being good at football is pretty important, but like trying to grow off the field, trying to grow how you can help people, trying to be more comfortable with yourself. You know, that's not easy. That's not given to you. It's really not. And you know, we all know people who are of a certain age, you know, maybe our age, maybe a bit older, and they're lost. They might be good at football. They might have nice houses. They might have nice cars, but they're lost. And there's no better feeling than just like being in the moment and really kind of half feeling like you know what you're doing. And that doesn't mean football. That's just you know what you're doing. You know yourself. That's a great feeling, and something that has to be worked on because it's just not given to you. It's impossible to be given to you, especially with how things are today, with how many distractions, how many idealistic things you see. It's not easy.
Yeah.
You haven't asked him you one day. 17-year-old Fraser, what does he say to himself?
What do you say to 17-year-old Fraser?
Doesn't have to be football.
Yeah. Just top of your head, what do you say to him?
Just believe in yourself. I think believe in yourself and work hard on all aspects of you, not just football, work hard on yourself. Because as Hart said there, being comfortable in your own skin and being able to speak to someone and be like, look, I struggle with this, or I find this hard, or
I'm good at this. You're going to want me.
Yeah. Or I'm good at this. I mean, as Hart said, like a lot of times I find it hard. I might have a worldie and I'll walk off and be like, it was okay. Do you know what I mean? And because I don't want to say, oh, well, that was a worldie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know? Like, I'm not comfortable saying that now. Big
point.
But yeah, as Hart said, positive or negative. Like, I think also that'd be another one for me. Be more positive. I think you've seen me like. It's easy for me to be like, this is wrong.
Grumpy, mate. You're a grump.
Nah. But then equally, I look at that and I'm like, that pushes me harder. Weirdly, because I'm never happy with how I've done. So then I'll be like, right, I'm going to go work.
I agree,
but you do have to enjoy the good times and enjoy life and be happy. Like, cause
the problem with that, Fraser, which you know, it's a misnomer about, you know, being elite, is that it's the constant drive and drive. What it leads to is you wear that part of you out. You just wear it out. And you know, we talked about this at camp. You can be in a warrior mode, but the warrior just becomes knackered. Yeah, and you've got to have that ability to switch and be magician and bring some lightness to a situation, which is why when, you know, Joe has always wanted to make it the right type of environment when you guys have got together at England. It's, yeah, we've got business to take care of, that's warrior mode, but also we're also going to be able to switch and at the right times change the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Would that be a fair statement, Joe?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. We've got to enjoy what we're doing.
And that's a skill. That's a skill, Fraser. You know, so you can overdo warrior and overdo that drive. And that's not just as an athlete, that's as people. We can overdo it. So I think, phrase from my side, Joel, you know, but I've got to say, you know, I love our conversations anyway, whether in Southampton or Manchester, or on the phone. But I've got to say, just getting you on this like this, I know you don't do too many interviews, and it's something we've looked forward to for a long time. So having you for just over 90 minutes is you know, is great. A lot to learn for other people about your journey, because I don't think a lot of people know really who you are, Fraser.
Any comments back on? Start feeling the love as well.
No, just plain sailing.
Right, okay. Right, so that's the end of another interesting episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as myself and Jamie did. Genuinely, though, thank you to Fraser, someone that, like I say, I get on greatly off the field, someone I respect hugely on the field, doing fantastic things again at Southampton, in fact, doing what we all know Fraser Forster should be doing. Insightful, interesting, loads of great messages, loads of things to learn. Like I say, just want to say thank you. Also, send your questions in, send us your thoughts, share it to people who think you can help. This isn't just aimed at footballers, this is aimed at anyone who's in any kind of industry and looking to improve. So big thanks to Fraser. We're going to try and get this turned around as quickly as possible, get it on a podcast. I think it's only right that we shout Ben Foster out at the end of this. Featured pretty heavily. Someone again, both myself and Fraser think the world of, and it's a great career. So, yeah, let's see where that takes us. Thanks again for watching. Cheers, guys.